Welcome to BeachLife UnLocked, episode 8. Mike Dotson, my colleague, myself, Mitchell today, and today we have a special guest, Miss Jenny Sheppard herself. For all of you who don't know, BeachLife Premier Team is powered by Sheppard Realty. Obviously, founder, CEO, head boss, all those terms that you want to use. Jenny is the one in charge, and we're going to ask her some questions today, and we're going to kind of go from there to see where it takes us. Are you ready?
I'm born ready.
Did you have anything initially you would like to say?
I just think this is great. I appreciate you guys doing this in the Berlin office. We just redecorated about a year and a half ago, and it's nice because you guys are, normally in Ocean City mostly, even though you have a strong presence here as well. So welcome to Berlin.
Well, thank you. And that's a great segue. So Jenny has two offices. Sheppard Realty has two offices, one on 78th Street where Mike and I work out of, and then here's the home base in downtown Berlin, right in the heart of everything. So if you're ever walking, feel free to pop in. There's always an agent on duty. We do sell here in town, in Ocean City, in Ocean Pines. So again, feel like you're part of the family and come on in and say hi to us while we're here. So I told Jenny I was going to ask some questions, and in no specific order was I going to ask them. So, but as an agent who's been doing this for a long time myself, I'm always curious to hear from other agents. Like, there's been some hard times in real estate, and how we kind of navigated ourselves through that. And thinking about that, what would you say your hardest time frame has been, and how did you work it out to still be a successful real estate agent and own your own brokerage and still be actively doing this now?
Well, ironically enough, it was about a year after I opened when the bubble burst. So I didn't know how I was going to pay the rent. So Malia, Ricks and I, who was my very first agent, we would sit in here until 8 or 9 o'clock at night and do BPOs, which are broker price opinions. They're basically mini appraisals. We can't call them appraisals because we don't have an appraiser's license.
Right, that's true.
That's what we were doing for all the major banks, and it actually helped me get into the foreclosure business with major banks.
Okay, and Mike asked me a question on BPOs. Are BPOs like one-offs, like you get paid $30 to do it, and then was it more for not for quantity? Were you looking for do a whole bunch of them? Is that how that worked?
Well, back then it was for paying the electric bill.
Fair.
But you would get like $50 for an exterior where you just go take pictures of the outside of the house. Sometimes it was more for condition to see, if they were keeping up on the maintenance. Sometimes it's because they were in a short sale.
Right.
But you would also get paid to do an interior. They would be more like $120.
Okay, nice.
So to tell you how much or how many Malia and I did that year, we did $56,000 worth. So
wow.
You do the math.
Right.
Non-stop.
That is. Well, and I think that's a lesson that a lot of agents, because and Mike and I talked about this at the last one, some of these agents started in 2020. Right. Yep. So while it was pandemic, it started off a really great 3 years, and they've never experienced that. And I think Jenny's probably talking 08, 09-ish time frame.
Yes.
Is that about right?
Yeah.
So those were tough times for everybody. And
yes. And I like to tell the agents that started then, no offense to them, but a monkey could have sold real estate in those years.
Right. No, you're right.
So after it did slow down a little bit after that, they were kind of discouraged. Where's all the leads? And so, I think every change in the industry is good. It's a learning experience. I've been through so many, and I like to tell people, don't ever think you're going to know everything there is to know about real estate, because it's constantly changing.
Absolutely.
So you and I, Mike, we all learned the business again with them. So. Yeah, and it's a good way for them to learn to get their own leads and how we've all gotten to where we are.
Right, it's the ebb and flow.
Yes.
Right, and that's the key.
So I take a little offense to that because I started in 2020.
That's why I said it.
Yeah. I started in 2020, and so I actually got my license in February of 2020, and with Keller Williams, and I don't want to say it was like right in the beginning of March, everything shut down. I hadn't even had a chance to get into the office to learn real estate. And so my first year I was kind of like, I didn't know what I was doing. I still still kind of don't, but
No comment.
yeah, I mean, I do pretty good for not knowing everything. But like you said, I don't think you're never going to learn.
Well, you had a great teacher.
Yeah. Well, that was not until 2021. But so my first year and a half in real estate, it was a disaster.
Well, thank God we saved you.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully Mitch called and brought me in here, but yeah, like it wasn't, gangbusters like I think everybody thinks it was in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
Not for me at least, because
Well, you didn't have a pipeline.
I didn't-
yet.
right,
But
I
you want to hear
had nothing
You want to hear a
set
funny
up.
story about Mike and I?
Yeah.
Okay, this is hilarious. All right, I'm gonna tell it. It's a good story.
Of course I do.
Okay, so I was out showing property one time, and I get my updates on my phone for leads, and I get this lead, and I'm like, okay. I'm going to reach out to the person because they were, on the website, and I reach out, and come to find out, he's an agent with Keller Williams, right? And so this is the old
Dirty
me.
dog.
No, well, here's the problem. So what I did, I was like, what agent would ever use another agent's website to search property when you can use Bright MLS?
Well, he already said he was a disaster.
I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sorry, man. I apologize. I didn't know. I was
Yeah.
just looking for information on this building. You had one listed here, it looked like, and
A great website, by the way.
yeah, obviously. So it captured me. We just had one the other day. Came in, was an agent in Virginia, and I did the same thing. I was like, "What are you doing? Like, you have access to Bright?" And she was like, "I'm really sorry. I did not mean to cause any problems." So I'm guessing she probably knew too. And like us come in and ruin their day.
Well, to be honest, it was a learning curve for everybody from 20 to 21, right?
It was,
We all
yeah.
didn't know what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We didn't know where the business was going. I mean, I just remember it was right before the St. Patty's Day parade.
Right.
And,
Oh, yeah.
And the town canceled it. And I was like, why in the world would they do that? It's an outside event. I'm kind of bent out of shape about it. A lot of people were. But it was just the beginning of COVID. So, you were in the same boat as everybody else, really. But I think it really kicked in 2021. And
did.
people just got restless so they could work remotely. And they said, I want to work at the beach. So
Rather
that's
be
when
at
it
the
got
beach than
busy.
anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it kind of opened it up. And so this kind of leads me to my next question. So what is the sexiest thing about real estate?
Me, obviously. Duh.
That was a softball question.
You don't stay in business for 30 years if you don't. I think the sexiest part is actually, getting to look at all the amazing homes out there.
I agree. Yeah.
I also really love the clients. I love to know what did you do to make that much money to afford this $5 million house?
Yeah.
I mean, that interests me. I think it's sexy.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love the houses and I love the clients. If you don't love the clients and the houses, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you'll be out of business in no time.
That's right.
Right, and so, obviously getting to know the clients and kind of, because Mike and I talk about it all the time. I mean, we're discretionary funds for the most part. I mean, again, they're, in downtown Berlin, people do reside here full-time, and so there are, full-time primary residents here as well. But it is pretty amazing sometimes the cool backstories or your clients on, my gosh, they own a shade business that sells these things to the Pentagon,
Right.
and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense why we're buying the $2 million waterfront property type of thing.
Exactly. And I mean, I know you do mostly Ocean City and second home market, but here, like when we started, we were really helping first time home buyers.
Yeah.
Back when they could afford houses here.
Well, so let's think about that. So that was what, 05, 08, 09,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So so Berlin right now, obviously, it's very popular and very expensive. And I say expensive for a primary. What was a house, on Washington Street or Burley Street back then?
Well, like just an average ranch home, 1,200 square feet on a Berlin lot, which is about a quarter acre. I mean, 85 to 125,000.
Wow. And now you're
5 times that
now
now.
you're 560, 550, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Gussie
Yeah.
sold my mom's place out on Buttercup Court for 565.
Yeah, I think she set a record with
yeah,
that.
it was
Yeah.
it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to my thing. I try not to sell for family and friends because again, I like to have that distance a little bit for me. That's not everybody's
You want
philosophy.
to keep a
No.
good relationship with them.
Yeah, mine is if you don't list with me, we're not family anymore.
See?
Who are you?
Right.
No Christmas present for you.
But that's what makes this job. I think the sexiest thing is it's different every day. And so you wake up and you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, you think you have a plan.
Right.
And by the end of the day, it could be something completely different than you had actually thought about.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this. So why real estate? Why did you, or how did you get involved in real estate?
Well, it's a great question because I actually went to college in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
I'm specifically the reason they moved spring break to Daytona back in the 80s. You're welcome, Fort Lauderdale. But I actually was always into fashion, and I worked in boutiques and sold clothing, and I just always had a salesman type of job. And when I came back to Ocean City, I got married and had 2 children, and I had to figure out something to do. I actually opened up a clothing store for 4 or 5 years.
In Berlin?
At the 45th Street Village. It was called West 45th.
Yep.
And then I went out of business in 1992 when the recession hit, along with some very big names in the clothing business around Ocean City. So then I had to figure out something else to do. Okay. And I love sales, and I love houses.
But you don't only sell houses, right? Don't you kind of dabble in other things as well?
Yeah, I do. I mean, when I got to the point in my business where I could, have realtors like you guys on board, and I had a little more freedom to kind of explore flipping houses and stage houses.
Yeah.
So, but that all goes back into the design factor for me.
Right.
So I love doing that. That's probably one of my favorite things.
Right. Well, I think the thing for real estate is it does allow you. Real estate is just not buying and selling homes, right? I mean, the great part about real estate is you can buy and flip.
Yeah.
Right. You can buy and rent. Right, kind of what I do a little bit with that. You can do the staging portion of it, so it's just not one revenue stream. And this is, for the agents who are listening, it's not just one revenue stream of buy sell. You actually need to diversify a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's when you really start making money in this business. I think. I mean, people like you guys who sell 25 million a year, you're obviously doing well. But I know that for me, I just kept giving these deals to people. And they were making the money, I was just making the commission. And so I went to my father and my ex-husband and borrowed $20,000 to do my first flip. And I made $100,000 on that flip.
Nice. Wow.
So that helped me then again move into another one.
Catapult.
So, yes.
Yep. And that's the thing again, Mike and I are always...
the IRS is not watching, right?
they are now, thank you very much for putting us on the screen.
I know, right?
Right, before we weren't on the radar, now we're on the radar. Appreciate that. Well, and so Mike and I were watching a podcast yesterday, and obviously when I first started in real estate, I was buying and selling for myself, and it's the hard money, right? If you
had me at hard.
Very nice. Hard money is money that we get from other investors, right? Well, we're going to pay you a bit more percentage, right? Has some different terms.
Yeah, I mean, back then I paid 5% on that money.
But hard money gets you excited, though, right? Exactly.
I already addressed that.
Yes.
She heard hard and she
exactly, ready to go.
Hard and money, they're two favorite things.
But that's the nuance of this, and I think that's again going back to the sexy part of it is that there's so many cool parts of it that you start to get down into different avenues and streets, and you're like, oh gosh, I have now a good relationship with my ex, and I have that portion of it. Or for me, it was other people who believed in us as we were growing. Now we too took a bath in 08, 09 for sure. I mean, it was a hard lesson to learn.
It was. It was. I really hated that time in my career because the short sales, we didn't even know what that was. And for anybody that dealt in short sales, it was the opposite of anything short. It was literally the longest process that you ever went through. But what was frustrating for me was I had people calling and saying, I need a rental. Jenny, can you help me? And I said, well, I don't, what can you afford? Oh, not much. And then I end up hearing that they hadn't paid their mortgage in 6 months. And I'm like, well, you should actually be able to afford a lot.
All kinds of money.
Right.
Yeah. And That was a tough time in this business.
It was. For me, I look back, it was the best time for me. And here's why. I have learned so many lessons not to go back and do the things that got me into that. I was 31 at the time, 32.
That was never going to end.
I did not. I mean, honestly, it was a depressing 2 years for sure. But the growth that came out of that, you never want to do that again.
Absolutely.
And I think it taught us a lot. I mean, I wasn't in real estate at the time, but I bought my first house in '09, and seeing what happened in '08, everybody kind of losing their I didn't want that to happen to me, so I've been kind of, I don't take a lot of risk, which now, like you said, we were talking yesterday, I'd like to get into real estate investing, right? I just don't know how to even get started, and with prices the way they are now.
And I'm the absolute opposite. That's all I do is take risks.
I'm so worried.
Sometimes
You do. I respect
I got young kids. Once my kids are older, I'll live in a cardboard box if I have to, but.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday, and again, I mean, this is obviously being in the office all the time, we talk all the time, but that's why you intrigue me, because you still are willing to go on the limb to do something and not. I mean, obviously you're hoping how it ends up, right? But not all the time it ends up that way, right? I mean,
yeah.
So,
scared money never wins. My dad told me.
And you know what? And I think we were talking about that yesterday to Mike, is you can't be scared. You just can't. You have to go for it. You have to believe in yourself.
Yeah, 100%. But I understand Michael's position too. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, when you are running a business, you have to have great employees. Not everybody wants to run a business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, not everybody, makes their move in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you're not ever going to make money in real estate. You're just more, conservative, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I watched what happened to everybody in '08, and then hearing, from Mitch what happened to him.
It was ugly. It was brutal.
What's happened to him? I don't know.
Well, we do live near a resort, so you can always bartend.
Yeah.
I mean, the stripping days, obviously, they've passed for all of us, but there are.
I'm not too sure.
Well,
I'm not too sure.
No, would it be fun?
No, but I wish, and I told Mike this, if I could this is a question for you, I'm going to say to myself, if I could go back and tell myself something that I know now, how to do it better, I would have never stopped investing the way I was investing before.
Keep going.
I would keep going. And he's young enough now where he can do that and get a good foundation. If you could go back and tell your younger self something, I mean, you're only 35, so it's only a few years ago. So if you could go back and tell
I started when I was 3.
if you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Wear a better bra.
Okay, well,
Invest in
Spend the extra money for the expensive bra.
That's fashion advice.
Write that down.
But no metal, right?
No underwire.
No underwire. Thank you.
I saw that commercial.
I mean, I think that I would probably say maybe start sooner, take the risk sooner.
Okay.
I felt like, again, I mean, so I was I was like, I need to wait for this, wait for that.
Yeah.
And then I just finally did it.
Well, did you start right at Sheppard, or did you start someplace else?
I was with Bunting Realty for 12 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
Well, 10 before I started my own company here. So.
Okay, so obviously Cam Bunting, and then who else was at Bunting's office with you when you were there?
Well, when I started, my training was, here's your office, here's the phone, I've got to go.
Good luck.
Yeah, and it was actually kind of great because I had to figure it all out myself. So people would call and they were like, is Cam there? Is Cam there? I'm like, no, she's not, but I'm Cam's other agent. So that was my title for a long time. But growing up here, I did have some built-in business, and yeah, I loved it from the very beginning.
So how long have you been here in town?
June will be my 20-year anniversary.
20 years!
Oh my God! You guys are crazy! Wow!
That was designed and planned by Emily.
Oh my gosh! Where are you,
I don't
Emily?
know.
She ran out the door.
The worst part is she ran out during the best
Oh my
time.
gosh! I'm too old for that. I'm having a heart attack. So is it a boy or girl or gender neutral?
Gender neutral. Politically correct.
We made a mess.
We did make a mess.
That's all right.
We did. So you're sweeping it up, not me.
Well, it looks
We're
like,
kids.
you know, it looks like one of our town events afterwards, because we are the hub of the town events. We have past clients, friends, future clients, and everybody comes in here. We put out a spread, and everybody just enjoys everything from this spot. So,
Yeah.
and we love doing that.
Well, and I guess that's interesting to me. So obviously you've had your choice over all these years.
Yeah.
To
Give
get
her a chance to collect her
I know. Hang on, let me.
Well, no, I love the fact that when you go to sell a property, the person said, "Hey, I've been here for 30 years or 50 years." You know, it's the same thing with a business. Not
Yeah.
many businesses stay in the same area for an extended period of time. What kept you? Because look, let's be honest. When I opened up the Globe, right before then, well, not I. There was a group of us that opened
Yes.
the Globe. Town was kind of dead prior to that.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure we opened the same year. Was
Oh,
it?
that's a great question. I would have to say I came back in 2000, 2005-ish.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
okay.
I remember because Greg David was
Greg.
over there at the bar, living the dream.
George's Mixes.
Yes,
Greg David.
yes. Now, big entrepreneur with George's Mixes. The best Bloody Mary mix you'll ever have.
See it there. Gregor, you owe some money
Yeah,
to
you
Miss
owe
Jenny.
some
Oh no, I came up with the original slogan. At the time, I was too busy doing this, but I said to him, I said, you need to bottle this. It's so good. Because he made his own Bloody Mary mix. And so I was like trying to think about ways to market it, and I came up with the most brilliant thing. Have you had your BM today? And, it just went on from there. No, I'm kidding. But, yeah.
So he's welcome.
No, yeah, we talk about that all the time. But he was fun.
But but again, to your point, I mean, let's say 85,000 was an average sales price here in Berlin. There wasn't much downtown. The old hardware store was still here at the time.
Yep.
Atlantic Hotel was going through a major with Sammy and Nino.
Oh, yeah.
And then remember that renovation that they did there.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on in the 05, but prior to that, so really from the transformation of Berlin, you've been here.
I have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And before. I was born and raised in this town.
True, fair enough. Is that what brought you into? Obviously being with Cam in town, you could have gone anywhere. You could have gone into Ocean City. You could have gone to Salisbury.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I was married at the time to Jenny Sheppard, who's been a broker for years. He was kind of out of the business, but being a broker of record for a couple small companies. And at the time I was going through a divorce, I had a major birthday, and I opened this company the same year. So
wow.
I kind of like slow torture.
Just do it all at once.
Yeah. But the reason that happened like that was I said I was going to open my own company, and I did it. And Malia came on board, my first agent, Malia Ricks from Malia's Cafe. Best breakfast place in Ocean City.
What street is that?
17th Street.
17th Street.
Yeah, right off the boardwalk in the Spinnaker Hotel. So she got her first listing, and it was literally across the street from Cam's office. And it said Sheppard Realty, you could look out her window and see it, and I was still working there. I was scared. I was just like, and Cam's like, Jenny,
we just
I think it's time. Here's your little wings,
go.
And she had a little goodbye party for me, and that was it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't have an office. I said, right now I'm just going to work out of our homes until the perfect spot comes up. And I literally drove down Main Street 2 weeks later, and there was a for rent sign in this spot. And I called Jack Burbage, and he said, it's yours if you want it. So, and back then the rent was $450 a month, if that gives you any idea of the time frame we're talking about here. But
so
thank you, Cam.
Well, I was going to say, so obviously Cam was a mentor,
Yes.
right? Because you started with her,
Yep.
and you took what you did. Because being with the brokerage for 12 years is a long time.
Yes.
So it wasn't like you went for 2 and left.
Oh no.
Right. There is longevity in this business, understanding the market and how it moves, and being with people who've been it. Because Cam still is in business.
Yes, she is. She's kind of, getting out a little bit, but Woody's already retired from his survey business. But yeah, she was a great mentor. Like any thing you do on your own. You learn, you take the good stuff, and then there were a couple of things that I wanted to do differently, which I did. But I appreciate her as a mentor. I mean, my mentors were also Edie Brennan.
Wow, okay.
Back then.
Yeah. I still remember her commercial.
I mean, she's pretty much sold out the whole Capri.
Yep.
You know, she was a big, you know, like for a woman in this industry then, she was a big deal.
And she did the West Ocean City area too for a while on the properties on the point that was in Nantucket or whatever it is.
Yeah, she's done a lot in this business, and she's very missed.
Well, so that leads me to one of my final questions is, so obviously Jenny's big on networking. Jenny has a huge network, something that I do not have that I would aspire to do more of. I think.
Well, let's just say Jenny likes to drink.
Well, no, but you like to socialize.
Well, that's where I do my networking, and I do a lot of, you know, business just by meeting people out.
So I know the answer to the question because you're obviously starting to lean that way. So how important is it? I mean, if we're talking to other agents or even talking to, you know, buyers and sellers are like, you know, is networking important for a real estate agent?
Yes, I mean the big slogan that everybody, don't be a secret agent. It's funny because back when I was with Cam, you know, it was easier to do business then. You know, we were the only ones in town. Bill Smith had just kind of retired. He was the name before Cam. And, you know, they would come to you because there was nowhere else to go. There's a good slogan. We're here because there's nobody else. But really, you know, it's a lot more competitive now. I'll never forget the first time I lost my first sale when I was with her because technology was kicking in, and that's when we got rid of the MLS books, and you know they were doing it online, and I had a big following with the Ocean City Police Department. I mean, they all came to me, and I just expected it, and I called one of my guys, and he said, "Oh yeah, I already bought something." And I was like, it's like a dagger to the heart. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, well, she was sending me stuff through, you know, email. And then, so that's why I say this business is ever changing and revolving and evolving. And get a little tipsy. Thanks, Emily. But, you know, you have to keep up with the times and, you know, networking. And I also tell people, we talked about this at our sales meeting the other day, you know, you can't just do the technology either. You have to make a connection with your clients.
You do.
Yeah, I think we're coming back because when I got in, obviously it was all, you know, texting,
like robotic kind of.
Yeah, it's all kind of, you put it on autopilot, and
it seems like that's what people wanted then too. They didn't really want to talk to.
It's coming back now, like we were talking about recently. Coming back now, where people actually want that phone call.
I agree.
They want that personal connection.
And you better make it quick because they don't wait.
Yeah.
No, they don't wait.
Unless you've got that relationship built with them.
I was going to say that. So I am, my strong point is not networking with other agents in general. Sometimes, unfortunately, I feel that it's a waste of time. I know it's not. Again, it's something that I need to do better. Mike, I was talking about that the other day.
Back to the drinking days.
Well, and I think, and so.
Turn back the clock.
Right, well, I think for me, you know, Georgie's 13 years old. So for me, for 13 years, I've kind of taken myself out of that scene. But I said to him yesterday, you know, because I'm looking to get back into buying some rentals, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to start networking again. You do. You don't have a choice in that. I mean, you know,
and there's different ways to do it. You know, I'm kidding about the drinking. I do love to drink, but that's not the only way to network, obviously. Some people join the Lions Club or the Elks Club and stuff like that, or they volunteer, which I'd like to do more of. I've done some, but I need to do a lot more of that. We all do. You know, that's very important. I know you guys do things for the what's the book bag program at the church.
We haven't done anything for that probably in the past year.
But that was a great thing and very important. I like to do things that are more local that we can actually see happening, you know. But there's all kinds of ways of networking. I mean, just simply going into, if your friend owns a store across the street, ask if you can put cards in. Yeah. You know, there's just all kinds of ways to get it out there. My mother, God rest her soul, she was the best advertising I ever had. I mean, she walked around with a pocket full of cards, weddings, parties, And then when she started handing them out at funerals, I told her that was like, stop.
Everybody's got a house to sell.
She's like, well, somebody's
They're everywhere.
Well, I tell the kids, I said, if you get me a referral, I'll pay. If the kids are out and they hand my card out and that person buys with me, I tell them I'll give them a referral fee for it.
Which would be a toy or something, right?
No, I'll give them cash.
No, you don't.
No.
No.
No, I don't.
Because they don't have a real estate license.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It would be after the fact, not a referral in the sense of a
Either
referral
way, they're
that
getting
way.
the cash from you.
Yes. I was like, oh my, the IRS issue there.
When you locked up real estate commission.
Real estate issue. So to understand this, yes, we
got
cannot
drinking on the job, giving people cash.
We cannot give referrals out to people who are non-agents. Right.
Correct.
Understood. Yes. And which is important.
That's why she's here.
Right.
You guys wonder, why is she here?
No. We're here because we love you, and we do. And
Thank you.
Look, this is
right back at you guys.
Right, and this again, obviously Jenny took me in. How many years ago was that? Was it 2019?
Yeah, I mean, it's going on like 7 years.
7 years?
7 years, yeah.
Yeah. So the funny part was
It's been a lot, but I'm managing.
Well, and we negotiated my commission split where?
At your mother's house, at the kitchen table, I believe.
We did on Buttercup.
On Buttercup.
On Buttercup Court, we did.
Yeah.
It's called networking.
But this is how life works, and I think this is part of networking that paid off for me. Was I was making a move. Mm-hmm. You were opening up an office in Ocean City.
You saw my beautiful sign.
It could not have been a perfect timing. Could it not? I mean, honestly, it was one of those things that I wasn't really planning on making a move. I think you've been always eyeing up something in Ocean City to open at some point in time where you could buy, because you're not a renter type person if you don't have to be.
No, if I don't have to be, yes,
right.
Of course.
And so, it was a perfect fit, honestly. Jenny, being a great broker, allowed me to expand, have a team now. Hunter's not here with us, but I think that part of the networking put me in the position where I was, and that was from the Globe.
Absolutely.
Many, many moons ago, and Gregory, obviously. Because you guys used to come in and sit at the end of the bar with Gregory. And used to hang out with him.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But no, I mean.
The important part is he remembered me.
I did. No, and the important part is honestly is that, for the networking, because, obviously Jenny does treat, I'll never forget, I was telling Mike the story when you took Brittany out after she helped you sell that property on the boardwalk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the type of networking and stuff that you like to do for your, your agents, your friends, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not here to promote myself. I'm here to promote my agents and the company. That's one thing that I wanted to do, when I opened my own company, was just to make it about them. And you got to throw new agents a bone if you want to keep them in the business. Yeah. And she was, like little kids, like we all did, struggling or whatever. And I brought her in on the deal, and it was like the best day of her life.
It was pretty cool. I mean, I did pull in. There was a limo in the parking lot on 78th Street.
Well, about 4 hours later, let's just say we drank all the Dom Perignon at Atlantic Hotel.
Did you really? Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
But we had a great day, and Michelle Nichols was a listing agent
for that
who I
property.
grew up with, so it was just a great day.
Right, that's funny how that is. Anthony Golden's her brother, correct?
Yep.
And it's a
we all went to school together.
right. It's a little bit of a small world. That kind of is the questions that I wanted to ask Jenny off the cuff. Is there anything that you wanted to chime in on?
No, I think we covered everything, how she got in the business and why, and we're thankful. I'm thankful that you're here, because
And I'm thankful too.
I was on the cusp of leaving real estate in 2021. I was actually putting applications out to get a real job.
Well, you mean one where you don't have to work 60 hours a week?
Yeah, and
all weekends and nights and miss events.
And holidays.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that now, because things have started paying off. Coming on board with Mitch and you. Kept me in real estate.
Well, I didn't.
I've been out of business.
And I didn't finish the story. So obviously, Mike and I had the funny start, with me texting.
Why are you
him,
on my site?
Why are you on my site? Type thing. So I don't know. It was probably about a year later.
Yeah.
I was looking to add to the team, and so the best way I thought was go into Zillow and read reviews. Right?
Yep.
So I went in and read reviews, and I'm going through, and I'm like, man, this guy's a grinder. He's not selling a whole bunch, but he's going to, Newark.
I was all over the place. Vienna.
Everywhere. And I'm like, I want a grinder. right?
That's right.
Because you have to be a grinder in this
You
job.
want somebody like you.
Well, and you. I mean, this job is not for the person who thinks they're going to come in, work 5 hours a week, and make money. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Just because you sell 10 million doesn't mean you made 10 million.
No.
That's a perception that people that are not realtors seem to think that's happening. But
Well, that's interesting because that's not. Mike and I never talked about that. Give me two perceptions that you think people think about realtors that just aren't true. That's a great segue.
I mean, the first obvious one is that it's such an easy job. I mean, it's probably.
I thought it was going to be easy. That's why I got into real estate. I was a truck driver for 13 years. I moved to Ocean City full time in 2019. Wasn't sure what I was going to do. I put out, I sent a note. I saw an ad for an agency looking for agents. They were willing to pay for real estate school. So I sent him a note and he reached out, ended up going to school. Didn't work out with that other broker.
But I appreciate you paying for their school.
Keller Williams, but I thought it would be easy. I mean, I always looked at real estate like this is, I bought a house. It was an easy process for me as a buyer. I look back now, it's probably because of the agent that I worked with.
Which is, that's our job, to make it feel easy.
Make it feel like
We're the ones that take on the stress. I always like to tell people, like new agents, we have to share facts with our clients, anything that goes on, but we don't have to share the drama. We don't have to share the stress and everything that we go through.
There's a lot that people
That's our
don't
job, is
see
to take
behind
that
the
on and
scenes.
take it off of them. So I always tell people, if you're not a problem solver, I mean, that's all we do, is we solve
All
problems.
day.
Without fires.
Yeah. So if you're not a problem solver, then real estate is not the job for you.
And then the misconception is you sell 20 million, you make 20 million.
Yeah.
And it's not, right? Because I mean, there's commission splits. Maybe there's a referral based in there.
Could be.
Depending marketing, where you got your lead from.
Photography.
We're 1099 employees, so
You pay taxes.
Right? You have to pay taxes.
I forgot about that part the first year.
Yeah.
But what I do love about it, what I do love about it, and always had, was that I did have small children when I started, and I could go to their soccer game, and
Flexibility.
Yes, you do have some.
Yeah.
But you can't be a part-time agent. You could back then, but you can't anymore, because you can't compete with people like these guys who work 65 hours a week. There's no such thing as a part-time agent anymore in this business.
Not except for one.
No, and we talked about that. I mean, nothing against part-time agents, right?
No.
I mean, but if you're a buyer or a seller looking to, have somebody represent you, and that you're going to be paying, you probably want somebody who's in the midst of it all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And which then, is the hard part, trying to explain to people that, it's not that you can't do it, but you have to dedicate yourself to doing it.
Well, I mean, I look at what you guys do. They're in the office all the time, and if they're not showing property, they're constantly educating themselves on what's coming up. Like, they're always 10 steps ahead of everybody else, because they're out there researching and doing the work to see how the market's shifting, and it's always shifting.
It is. It is always shifting. Well, do you have any questions for us? Did you want to put us on a spot with anything?
Yes, I do, actually.
Okay,
boy.
we'll go this.
Oh, you're not
This is
here.
unscripted, by the way, so I have no idea where this could go.
Where's the bartender, first of all?
We need another drink, please.
I'll just drink yours.
That's fine. Help yourself.
What is the sexiest part about real estate, Mitchell? Really?
It's you.
Yeah. Duh. No, I'm kidding. That's funny stuff.
No, I know why I started. I mean, again, we the brief story is that Tim Jones and I had started buying rentals and stuff, and we just got tired of paying everybody else. So just got our license so we could cut that middleman out. Same thing with, construction. We started our own contracting company because we were tired of paying people to put windows in and do the flooring and stuff when we just simply did it ourselves.
Well, I mean, that's, it's not a bad thing. I mean, coming on as a realtor and having background, whether it's buying houses or in the lending business or something, just gives you a step up on everybody else, and eventually you've turned it into a major business.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
And I appreciate you guys a lot.
No, we love you, and we're super excited that you were able to be our first non-family guest.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I had Georgie. And then we did a small little thing with,
That was
with
great.
Miss P.
I saw it. It was amazing.
Yeah, so we have to redo Miss P's because hers didn't come out the way we had liked because it was last minute type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just know next time you have to call my agent to book it. And
Is that Mr. Chase? Is that Mr. Chase?
Chase, my son, yeah,
Mr. Chase.
who's not here because he was afraid of what I would say.
Well, we
rightfully
all
so.
are kind of concerned about what you possibly could say.
Editing has to be done. I think.
There you go.
There are some words that need to be bleeped out for sure.
Well, thank you, and thank you for this nice spread.
Yes.
Cheers to 20
Congrats
years
to
over
20
there with our
years.
mimosa bar and French pastries and flowers. Thank you, Emily.
Yes, thank you, Emily, for doing all that. We appreciate it.
Excellent
The
job.
brains behind
It is
the camera.
the editing.
We're the faces, right?
Right, there you go, exactly. Well, thank you very much for joining us with BeachLife Unlocked. Feel free to always, contact us via our phone call or a text message. Feel free to reach out to Jenny if you have any questions. She has a couple really beautiful listings, 8-9 million currently out there. Some beautiful spots in Ocean City. So if you're looking for that type of representation,
A sexy house?
It is a sexy house. It is, though. Is it not a sexy
Price
house?
alone makes it sexy.
It is. Or you can visit our website.
BeachLifeOceanCity.com.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.